Imagine this, a single object, small enough to fit in one hand. No blade, no army, no fire. Yet by the end of its journey, a city will burn, heroes will die screaming, mothers will curse the gods, and history will call it inevitable. What if I told you the Trojan War did not begin with Helen, not with Paris, not even with love? What if it began with an insult, a name left off a guest list, and a goddess who refused to forgive? Would you still call it destiny or revenge? Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll realize something terrifying. The Trojan War did not start because of love. It started because the gods behaved like humans. Welcome to Trojan mythology. Today's story is not about heroes. It's not about glory. It's about pettiness, vanity, and consequences. This is the story of the golden apple of discord, and how one moment of divine ego dragged the mortal world into 10 years of blood. Let me ask you a question. What could possibly go wrong when every god in existence is invited to the same wedding? Laughter, wine, music echoing through eternity. Now ask the second question. What happens when one god is not invited? High above the world, where clouds coil like marble staircases, stood Mount Olympus. Not the peaceful paradise we imagine, but a palace of egos. This was the home of the gods, and on this day, Olympus celebrated a wedding. The bride, Thetis, a sea nymph of such beauty that even the gods feared her. Zeus himself once desired her, until prophecy warned, the son born of Thetis will be greater than his father. And Zeus remembered his own father, devoured by the child he tried to escape. So Thetis was given not to a god, but to a mortal. The groom, Peleus, a warrior, a king, a man brave enough to wrestle gods and live. This marriage wasn't romantic. It was political, a way for the gods to control fate. And so, they celebrated. Picture it. Golden halls stretching into infinity. Tables overflowing with ambrosia and nectar. Music played by Apollo himself. Hera presided like a queen. Athena debated strategy with Eris. Aphrodite laughed, every laugh turning heads. Even Zeus smiled. For once, Olympus was at peace, but peace in Greek myth never lasts. There was one name missing from the guest list, one presence the gods feared more than war, one force no palace could contain. Her name was Eris. Eris was not love, she was not wisdom, she was not war, she was conflict itself. The whisper that turns friends into enemies, the thought that turns envy into action, the spark that turns irritation into murder. And today, she was not invited. Let that sink in. The goddess of discord was excluded from a gathering of the most egotistical beings in existence. Was it an accident? Or did the gods think they could have peace without acknowledging chaos? Eris stood outside the gates of Olympus. She heard the music. She smelled the wine. She saw laughter spill into the sky, and something inside her broke. Not sadness, not rage, something colder. She did not scream. She did not storm the gates. Instead, she smiled. Because Eris did not destroy with force, she destroyed with ideas. The weapon from the shadows, Eris produced something small, a perfect apple, forged of solid gold, smooth, flawless, reflecting the faces of the gods like a mirror, and carved into its skin 4 words in ancient Greek, T Callisti, to the Fairest. Here's the question. Why is this the most dangerous object in mythology? Because Eris didn't choose a winner. She chose a question, and questions are more destructive than weapons. Without a word, Eris hurled the apple over the walls of Olympus. It arced through the air, spinning, glinting, silent, and then, clang, it struck the marble floor between the goddesses. Music stopped. Laughter died. Every eye turned. And for one impossible moment, the gods understood. 3 goddesses stepped forward. Each reached for the apple. Each believed the words were meant for her. Hera, wife of Zeus, queen of Olympus. Power dripped from her voice. I am the lawful queen of heaven. Who else could this be for? Athena, armor gleaming, eyes sharp as blades. Beauty without wisdom is nothing. I shape civilizations. Aphrodite, she didn't argue. She smiled, because every god, including Zeus, had fallen for her at least once. And now, the most dangerous competition imaginable began. Let me ask you something. If three immortal beings define themselves by superiority, what happens when only one can win? Voices rose. Accusations flew. Hera accused Zeus of favoritism. Athena accused Aphrodite of manipulation. Aphrodite laughed, which made it worse. Even thunder rolled uneasily. Zeus, king of gods, ruler of fate, was afraid, because no matter what he chose, two goddesses would never forgive him. So Zeus did what he always did best. He avoided responsibility. "I will not judge," Zeus declared. The hall froze. The goddesses stared. "A mortal will decide." And with that sentence, the fate of Troy was sealed. Far from Olympus, on the slopes of Mount Ida, a shepherd tended his sheep, unaware that destiny was approaching. His name was Paris. Let's talk on. Why Paris was abandoned at birth, why he was the worst possible choice, and how three goddesses prepared to corrupt him. Because once Paris accepts the apple, there is no turning back. Ask yourself this. If the gods themselves cannot handle rejection, what chance do humans ever have? Because the next choice will not just decide beauty, it will decide war. Before we continue, answer this honestly. If three gods offered you absolute power, eternal glory, or the most beautiful woman who ever lived, which would you choose? Now the real question, what if every choice destroys a city? Because Paris was never choosing beauty. He was choosing how Troy would die. High on the slopes of Mount Ida, the wind moved gently through pine trees. Sheep grazed. The world felt small. This was Paris's world. Simple, quiet, safe. And that was exactly why Zeus chose him. But Paris was not just a shepherd. He was a forgotten prince. Years before this moment, Queen Hecuba dreamed of fire, not ordinary fire, a flame that poured from her womb and consumed the towers of Troy. The seers spoke in one voice, "Your son will be Troy's destruction." King Priam faced a choice, kill his child or doom his city. Paris was born, perfect, innocent, unaware of prophecy, and he was ordered to be abandoned, left on Mount Ida to die from hunger, cold, or beasts. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Troy's fall began the moment Paris survived, because fate didn't just spare him, fate prepared him. A shepherd found the infant, and instead of obeying kings, he obeyed compassion. Paris grew among animals, not nobles, strength without discipline, beauty without restraint, charm without consequence. He learned desire, not duty, and the gods noticed. When Hermes descended to Mount Ida, Paris thought he was dreaming. Three goddesses followed. Reality bent. The air itself seemed to kneel. Let me ask you something important. Was Paris chosen because he was fair, or because he was easy to manipulate? They did not arrive together. They arrived like predators, each alone, each confident, each certain she would win. Hera, she appeared first, regal, towering, terrifying, not seductive, authoritative. "I am Hera," she said, "and I offer you the world." With a wave of her hand, Paris saw visions, empires kneeling, crowns stacked like trophies, kings trembling at his command. How many men would doom their own people for absolute power? Paris swallowed. Athena, she came second. No softness, no smile, only precision. She showed Paris war, not chaos, mastery. Enemies falling at his feet, his name sung by poets, victory without defeat. "Choose me," Athena said, "and no man will ever surpass you." Is glory worth more than peace? Aphrodite, she waited, and that was her advantage. She did not summon visions of armies. She stepped closer and whispered. Paris froze. Because Helen was not just beautiful, she was mythically impossible. Who was Helen really? Helen was the daughter of Zeus and Leda, born from a god's deception, raised as a weapon of desire. Men did not love Helen. They lost themselves to her. Every great Greek hero wanted her. To prevent war, they swore an oath. Whoever married Helen, all would defend him. Her husband was Menelaus, and Aphrodite promised Paris could take her. Was Aphrodite offering love or deliberately triggering war? Paris stood trembling. Power, glory, desire. The apple burned in his hands. He did not ask about consequences. He did not ask about oaths. He did not ask about Troy. He chose want. Paris handed the apple to Aphrodite. The world shifted. The goddess's response. Athena did not scream. She remembered. Hera did not curse. She planned. Aphrodite smiled, because she had just won something far bigger than a contest. From that moment on, Olympus fractured. Aphrodite protected Troy. Hera and Athena vowed its destruction. Zeus said nothing, because fate had already been released. And now, all that remained was Helen. Paris sailed to Sparta under the lie of diplomacy. Menelaus welcomed him, fed him, honored him, and then Menelaus left. Aphrodite moved. Some myths say Helen was enchanted, others say she chose, but the truth doesn't matter, because Greece believed one thing: Helen was stolen. Paris fled with Helen and stolen treasure, toward Troy, toward fire. Menelaus screamed for justice, and the oath answered. Kings gathered, warriors armed, heroes rose. Agamemnon, Odysseus, Achilles, 1,000 ships prepared to sail. Hook question: did Troy fall because of Helen, or because the gods wanted a war? Cliffhanger. End of part 2. The ships have launched. The gods have chosen sides. The apple has done its work. Now, you will witness why Helen became a symbol, not a person, how Eris truly won, and how one small object caused 10 years of slaughter. Before we talk about battles, before heroes and monsters, ask yourself this: if a war lasts 10 years, kills the greatest generation of heroes, and ends an entire civilization, can we still call it an accident, or was the Trojan War designed to happen? Because at this point in the story, every piece is already in place. The sea turned black with sails. 1,000 ships cut through the Aegean like blades. Every king of Greece answered the oath, not because they loved Menelaus, but because they were bound. The Greek host, this was not an army. It was a collection of egos, warriors who believed themselves immortal, kings who feared losing honor, heroes who needed songs sung about them. At the center stood Agamemnon, a man who confused power with authority, and beside him, the greatest weapon Greece had ever forged, Achilles, half god, half man, fully dangerous, dipped in the river Styx by his mother Thetis, invulnerable everywhere but one heel. Achilles did not fight for Greece, he fought for glory, and glory demands blood. If heroes only fight for fame, are they really heroes? Behind walls built by gods themselves, Troy stood proud, unbroken, unprepared. King Priam believed the walls would hold. His son Hector believed in honor, and Paris believed in Aphrodite. Helen in Troy. Helen arrived like a living omen. Some Trojans adored her, others whispered curses behind closed doors. Even Helen herself questioned her place. In some myths, she weeps. In others, she feels nothing at all, because Helen was no longer a woman. The war did not end quickly, because the gods would not allow it. Year after year, spears shattered shields, arrows darkened skies, sons died where fathers watched. Every time Troy gained hope, Hera interfered. Every time Greece faltered, Athena intervened. Aphrodite saved Paris more than once, even when he didn't deserve it. The gods did not want peace. They wanted sides. Achilles withdrew from battle, not because of fear, but because Agamemnon insulted him. One wounded ego cost Greece thousands of lives. So Achilles' companion Patroclus went to battle in his armor, and Hector killed him. That moment ended mercy. Achilles returned, not as a hero, but as a force of nature. Hector versus Achilles. Outside Troy's walls, Hector ran 3 times around the city, because even courage breaks when gods abandon you. Athena tricked Hector. Achilles struck, dragged his body behind a chariot, and something ancient died that day. 10 years, no victory, no surrender, just exhaustion. That's when Odysseus spoke, not with strength, but with deceit. A gift, an apology, a lie carved in timber. Troy debated, warned by Cassandra, cursed to always speak truth and never be believed. The horse was pulled inside the gates. That night, Troy died. Greek soldiers spilled from the horse. Gates opened. Fire consumed the city. Children screamed. Temples burned. Priam died at the altar. And Helen walked free. Remember Eris? The goddess never returned. She didn't need to. Her apple had done its job. The golden apple was never about beauty. It was about comparison. Comparison breeds envy. Envy breeds conflict. Conflict breeds war. And mortals paid the price. Let's be honest. This myth survives for one reason. Because it's still happening. Nations fall over pride. Wars begin over insults. Leaders refuse compromise. The golden apple is still being thrown, just with different names. The golden apple disappears into myth, but its lesson remains. One insult, one choice, one moment of ego. That's all it takes. This was the golden apple of discord, the smallest cause of the greatest war. If you stayed until the end, you understand something most never will.